Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Hey there, coaching you for you, family and friends. I'm so excited to have you here back with me again this evening. Thanks for coming back. I appreciate it. I just want to take a little bit of time tonight to talk about heartbreak, and it happens in a lot of different areas. And I see that we're having some technical difficulties here, so just bear with me. If it doesn't, come out right, you just hold on and I'll switch to another screen. But I'd like to thank you for being here this evening, and I hope everybody is safe and cool and hydrated. And of course, I hydrate, and I'm not advertising for anybody, but of course, I love coconut water. And so, I want to talk a little bit about heartbreak. But before I do, I want to shout out everybody who has a small business and is trying to get it done. I want to tell you not to trust the numbers on Facebook when it comes to folks reviewing your podcast or your marketing, because those analytics are typically not correct. So I'm coming in, and I am going to change this background, and I'm going to go to no background and see what happens there. And so it looks a little bit. I have on my university T-shirt that I like to wear sometime. I graduated from Elizabeth City State University, and I'm very proud of it. And HBCU, helps us get it done. And so I like wearing my HBCU shirt. And now we are in no background. And there we go. Hey, I am your host, Annette, here at Coaching You For You. Thank you for your patience. Remember to hydrate. I choose coconut water. Tonight, I want to talk a little bit about heartbreak. And again, as I share with you so often, this is my experience. Every experience is different. I am not a genius. I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. And so, thank you again for joining me here this evening. What I know, I know. What I don't know, I don't know. But I know about this because my heart's been broken before. And before I get into that, I want to talk a little bit about this word that's trending around Facebook and all social media. All you hear is about a narcissist. Everybody's a narcissist when the relationship breaks up. That's not always true. I want to tell you emphatically and without reservation, when you've dealt with a narcissist, you will know it. And again, I'm sharing my experience. I have unfortunately had the experience after becoming widowed of dealing with a narcissist. A narcissist is a person who has an excessive interest in themselves and admiration of themselves. They believe that the world revolves around them, and they will do everything to destroy any and everybody who doesn't understand their worth as they see it. The word is trending. And if you don't know the difference between a narcissist and having made bad choices and experienced bad behavior, you are doomed to repeat wherever you were in that relationship and carry it over into other relationships. Exes who behave badly are not necessarily narcissists. There's a whole thing that goes with that. I'm not an expert on it. I only have my experience in it. It was horrible. And many times, we misunderstand that. But no matter what the situation is in your heartbreak, please take the time to heal from it. Otherwise, you're just going to bleed all over somebody else. So let's talk about what you see in narcissists and what you might see in bad behavior. In the narcissists I dealt with, I saw a lot of grandiose and self-importance. I saw, a fantasy world, a need for constant praise and admiration, a sense of entitlement, exploiting others, and frequently demeaning and disrespectful and intimidating and bullying and belittling of others. And listen, when you get involved with people like this, you don't always see them right up front because they're a lot smarter than you think you are. But we're here tonight to talk about what heartbreak taught me, and that if in every situation, if you're willing to learn, you'll have an experience that you can take with you moving forward that will benefit you in the future. And so, love taught me who was the boss. And what do I mean by that? It taught me that love is not everything. It's not. And most people say, oh, the love will carry us through. If that's the case, many people would be together. There wouldn't be extramarital affairs. There wouldn't be cheating. There wouldn't be uh, men or women marrying into situations where people have been everywhere. Don't mistake or misunderstand or think that they didn't love the people before you. They did. Love is sometimes not enough. No, most often it's not enough. It requires more than that. And the more than that it requires is this. This is my experience. The more than that it requires is that you and the person you love are on the same page, that you stay on the same page, that you continuously have conversations about the same page, that you have the same goals, you have the same mission, and you're headed in the same direction, although you can both detour into different directions at some point, as long as you understand the mission, the goals, and you get back to the direction that works best for the couple. But I found out that love is not everything. I found out that in heartbreak is physical and mental. And for those of you who judge folks who suffer too long or go through too many changes when they break up, you need to step back and dig yourself before, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Because if you've never been there, you don't know what it's like. It's a physical and emotional issue for those of us who have suffered. And I'm not here tonight to be a victim. I'm here to share with you what heartbreak taught me. And I was willing to learn from it. I learned that, there are some doors that are absolutely meant to be closed. And we spend a lot of time, some of us, in bad situations, kicking those doors in, wanting what the heart wants and leaving our common sense in our head someplace else. And that's how we get in trouble. I learned that. This is my experience. I learned it. I learned that during, heartbreak, feelings can be untrustworthy. And by that I mean you can't always trust what you're feeling at that moment, because remember, you're suffering and you're in pain. And when we're in pain or when we're angry, the worst thing to try to do is, trust what we're feeling at that moment. So I learned to step back and evaluate where I was, what I was feeling, how it was making me feel, and what I could do different. And I think this is important because I don't care how young or old you are, at some point in time, everybody suffers a heartbreak, unless you don't have a heart. I found out how judgmental people could be. I found out how, and by judgmental, what I meant was, you know, oh, you're not over that by now? Oh, she's still talking about that? Oh, if we go here, this is what we have to listen to. If you're a friend, you'll listen. And you don't always have to offer advice. It's not always about offering advice. Sometimes it's just the opportunity to get it off your chest. And for those of us who jump into other relationships, which I did not do, what I have experienced with friends who have is they have a tendency to judge the other man or woman who has been left behind. Stop that. Stop it. You know, we all have our turn. We all have different experiences. We all experience it different. And none of us can determine how somebody grieves the loss of somebody they love. None of us can determine that. Don't be so judgmental. Don't think that the man that was left behind was just a bum or this or that. Don't judge that. Don't think the woman who was left behind didn't know how to love him right. You do. Stay tuned. Don't judge folks. I learned to sit in what I was going through, experience it, and do what I needed to do to get better. That's why I'm such a big advocate for self care, because the other mistake that people make, and I'm going to hydrate on this, the other mistake I've seen people make, and I've often wondered, how I got to where I was. If we could figure that out, there'd be a lot of things a whole lot different in this world. But heartbreak happens for all of us, and not being judgmental of others and not trying to figure out, how they got there, why they got there, or why they let that happen to them. Nobody lets heartbreak happen to them. Give that up too, please, in your judgment zone. And then finding out who your friends are, you find out, who will listen to you and who will love you through it and who will keep your secrets. But more than that, I learned what I didn't want anymore. That's right. I learned exactly what it is that I did not want. And through that heartbreak and suffering and, sleepless nights and crying and trying to figure things out, I learned, how to get better at doing me. Now, the reason I'm having this conversation is because I often get texts and emails and phone calls, people, family, friends asking me, to have the discussion about my experience. When I'm talking about my experience, which I am tonight, I'll make that abundantly clear because everybody's experience is different. But heartbreak and the pain and the sleepless nights and the self doubt is typically the same for all of us, whether we admit it or not. And so, getting to where I needed to get to heal, I talk about this too. Healing is one of the best things that can happen after a heartbreak. So, one of the things I had to learn how to do in my heartbreak was take time to grieve. I had to grieve it. So often we want to push aside, forget about it, and find the next thing that makes us feel better, whether it's another partner, which I did not do, thank God, whether it's shopping, which I did do, unfortunately, whether it's traveling, whatever it is, we want to do something quickly that helps us forget that pain and anything that will help us absorb it with less pain. That means deal with it with less pain, we'll often try to do. And that's why people jump from one pond to the other. And that's what pollutes ponds. There's blood in those waters. You have to take time to heal. The dating pool gets dirty because we jump right into it. I've seen people do it. I've been next to people who have done it and watched them suffer tremendously even more. You got to find a new source of joy. I did. I found out, again, I rediscovered myself. Take time to rediscover yourself when your heart is broken. Take time to do that. When I took time to do that, it wasn't always easy, but it worked. When I took time to remember what I loved, what I enjoyed doing, and I got back to it, because when we fall in love, we give everything up. Family, friends, food, we don't like anymore. If they don't like it, if he didn't like it, I didn't like it. If he didn't want to eat it, I didn't make it. We give up a lot of things. And so I had to learn again to rediscover myself and make a list of the things I like most about myself. There are a lot of things I like about myself, and you should too. It's called self confidence. And sometimes in bad relationships and heartbreak, we lose a little bit of that. And that's okay. That's normal. I found out that that was normal. And I got back to myself and I got back to the things I loved and I got back to the people, places, and things that I loved. And I'm telling you, it works, man. Heartbreak happens to the best of us. It's a fact of life. And I acknowledged that I would have thoughts about my former ex or former, either or. It's gone. Former, past tense, not anymore. And not only did I have to acknowledge in my grieving that I would have thoughts, I acknowledged the good, the bad, and the ugly. Sometimes when the heart wants what it wants, we'll create situations that don't make sense if that's what works for us. Because see, we're trying to erase that pain. We're trying to do what we need to do to get past it. I've been there, I've done it. I'm sharing my experience. Acknowledge that you'll think about them sometimes. But when you think about them, I learned to be realistic about who they were. Because what got me in trouble with them in the first place, what um, got in the way of me moving past the fact that clearly they were a narcissist is because I couldn't see it at first. All I could see was the good in them, what a great person they were, and the potential they had. In other words, I believed more in them than they believed in themselves. I did, and I know that today. I believed more in them than they did in themselves. I believed that they were capable of. I believe, given the opportunity and shown real love and what it looked like and felt like, they would act better. Heads up, they don't. They are who they are. And if they're narcissists, there's a whole list. Go do your research, do your homework. My experience is different. Do your homework. Find out what a narcissist is. Find out what they look like, what they talk like, what they think like. And you'll better be able to deal with the next person, that comes along that may have some of those tendencies. Don't ignore them. I learned to express, how I felt and what I need to somebody who loved me and cared about me and wanted what was best for me. And that was a friend. Nabila Ishmael, I love you. Nabila, I love you. Thank you. Friends to the end. Yep. Thank you for being a friend, and listening to me and hearing me out and keeping my secrets. Because some of the stuff, when we're in love and the heartbreak is happening, and we've done things that we're not necessarily willing to share with others, I was willing to share with her. And she met me right where I was as a friend. And I truly appreciate that. Everybody needs a friend, you know. I turned my attention towards other things and other people. I stopped socializing. I stopped dealing with people. I stopped doing a lot of things. Now, I don't want you to misunderstand this message. Even in that, and from the former, I learned a lot. I did. But the most important thing I learned is who and what I didn't want to be. When somebody mistakes your kindness for weak, they're actually the weaker person. Remember that. They are. Because they're not capable of seeing, decent behavior in people. They're not used to it. They look at things and to them, everything has a motive for the narcissist. So I learned some things and I appreciate it. And I allowed, what I was feeling to flow. And I was able to do that with my friend. And I'm so grateful for that because I had to be able to tell somebody the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so that my healing could begin. I didn't want to hide behind anything, especially, my thoughts of who I believe them to be. Because no matter who you believe a person to be, when you love them, who they actually are will show up in the behavior. Don't miss that. And that's why I want you to know another thing. The reputation of people mean absolutely nothing because that's what other people think of them. What matters most is what they do. And what this person did on a regular basis at every opportunity where things didn't go their way, was be grimy, because that's who they are. Didn't have anything to do with me. That's absolutely who they are. So I learned to allow, things to flow. And I found relief in things that I previously enjoyed. You know, I like working out. I have some restrictions due to an injury, but I like working out. I like going to the gym. I like being on a climber. I like sitting on a yoga ball and doing weights. I like all of that. I like intermittent fasting. I've done it and lost 20 some odd pounds as a result of it, but I've seemed to have plateaued at 20. But intermittent fasting works. And I realized that I like that. I like eating well, I like eating healthy. I drink water because I have to. One of the reasons I switched to coconut water is because it allows me the opportunity to get those, ounces of water in that are necessary, for, good skin and things like that. And so I'm working on that. So what I want you to know tonight is that everybody suffers heartbreak. I've suffered it. You're going to suffer it. People are going to suffer. Pay attention to what you see. Don't listen to what other people say, because everybody's got something to say. And everything they say is not always the truth. When you go with your heart, take your mind with you. And if you have any measure of common sense, eventually, as it did for me, it'll kick in. And although the former believed that they had left me, I was actually gone long before they left. I want to thank you for joining me here tonight. I want you to know that heartbreak is eventually, at some point in time, whether it's from losing somebody to death, losing in a relationship, it is inevitable when you love somebody. Hang in there, do the best that you can do and be good to yourself. Self care is important because self care is what helped me get to where I needed to be to heal. And in healing, I've unpacked it. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm grateful for having had the experience, and I'm grateful for having moved on. And when you get to that point, you'll be grateful too. Have a good evening. Thank you for joining me. Don't be afraid to love. Just take your head with you. This one. Have a good night.